Welcome back, everyone. We are going to cover the second portion of Lesson 3, which is Ethics and Research. Ethics and research, in particular in psychology, is super important. Really, this started after World War II and the Nazi regime. Of all of the things that Dr. Mengele and his colleagues were doing in the concentration camps with the concentration camp prisoners, that kind of spurred the American Psychology Association and the other associations to develop a code for appropriate behavior when it comes to how to treat participants. And ethics comes into every single psychological study. At the base, people should exit the study no worse off than they did coming in. And we move into the ethical guidelines. And there are a number of different ethical guidelines. These are the 4 that I'm going to specifically talk about. These ethical guidelines were developed by the APA, which is the American Psychological Association. One of these, the first one, informed consent, you already know about because I had you fill out informed consents for the study that we did in class. This is where all participants must know what they are participating in and the risks that are involved. The participants can choose to not participate, and from that, their participation will be thrown out, and there will be no evidence of them. And that moves into ethical guideline number 2, which is confidentiality. Researchers must keep their data and their participants confidential or secret. A lot of times we only hear that 500 people participated in the study. We don't hear that participant number 4 did whatever. And this is because they a lot of times split the participants' names from their actual participation. They'll assign them a number, and then they will actually get rid of the names themselves. And so everything will be just referred to as numbers. Once the statistics are found and some conclusions are drawn, there's really no need to have specific numbers and that actual data. Number 3 is debriefing. Researchers must inform the participants of the purpose and the methods they used in the study after the study is over. They have to tell them why they did it. They have to tell them what they were getting out of it. Deception is the 4th one, and the one that I'm going to talk about, I guess, the most for here in a second. Deception is a lot of times part of studies, especially psychological studies. We want to make sure that the Hawthorne effect doesn't happen. And so a lot of times researchers will deceive the participants. But the APA says that the deception must not harm the participants in any physical or emotionally or mental way. This is one of the most debated guidelines because, again, there is sometimes that deception is needed. But it is important to debrief your participants afterwards and make sure that the deception was not harmful. Now, some of you might be asking, well, what happens when we want to study something, but because of APA guidelines for ethics, we can't? And well, the answer is we use animals. Animal studies have provided a better understanding of human problems, although there is no direct correlation between what happens in animals and what happens in humans, so we always have to be aware of that. And in all reality, the use of animals only happens about 5% of the time. But when it does happen, it's about 90% of rats and mice. However, we will look at some studies this semester where we look at the use of dogs and pigeons, and we look at one that uses cats in the biological unit. Sometimes researchers use procedures on animals that would be considered unethical for humans, and that's the reason that we use the animals. And they need to be very aware that that we, again, can't translate animal behavior to human behavior. I hope you've enjoyed lesson 3. It's very short. Have a fantastic rest of the weekend. I will see you in class.